St. Louis Post-Dispatch, also STLtoday.com. Jay Kanzler is a local attorney, former candidate for auditor. If he would have beat Claire McCaskill, we wouldn't have her sitting as United States Senator.
Senator Kanzler.
Senator Kanzler. And that's John Deal, who is currently the majority leader, also the speaker in waiting down in Jefferson City. John Deal, explain this law that is getting more attention down in Jefferson City, or down in the city. It's not
City
a
of
law.
St. Louis.
It's a ballot initiative.
Yeah, it's very odd. If you remember about a year ago, when Peabody announced its expansion of its headquarters in St. Louis, there was an Occupy type of crowd that was picketing out in front of the building and protesting the incentives provided.
Ruining the walkway to Mike Shannon's Steakhouse, I just want to.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Okay, soiled it and all that
outrageous
kind of stuff. So, yeah, not good. And so what they did was they drafted an initiative change to the city's charter, which would prohibit any, I believe the term they use is sustainable energy, an unsustainable energy company from getting any type of economic benefit in the city or any type of direct contracting or city funds, but then also any company which does more than $1 million of business with a company which produces unsustainable energy. That company would be ineligible for any sort of public monies, which could mean contracts, which could mean, economic development incentives. It could mean a whole host of different things.
It could mean the high school paying their energy bill.
Exactly, or the city buying gasoline for its fleet of vehicles.
Right.
It would prohibit all that. So they managed to collect enough signatures under the city charter and had it certified to be put on the April ballot this coming April, which is a general election in the city. There's never any Republican versus Democrat issues, and I'm not sure there's anything else on that ballot in the city.
So 6 people are going to go and vote.
Exactly, and you pass that, and that, if this thing passes, it would completely destroy the economy of the city of St. Louis. It just would not be able to function, and it's just bad policy. That this part of the trend of waging a war on coal and waging a war on one of this country's major assets, and that's our energy sources. We're one of the few countries in the world that treat our natural resources as its enemy.
Right.
And we need to put a stop to it, and this is just a manifestation of that type of attitude taken to the extreme.
There's got to be a checks and balances. I mean, it sounds like a ridiculous law that just just cannot pass for all sorts of reasons. How are you going to put gas in police cars? How are you going to light the schools? How are you going to pay for the school teachers? I mean, it's just a ridiculous. There has to be checks and balances to this.
Or any company. I mean, if you look at the employers, you look at the employers in downtown St. Louis. Union Electric has its headquarters there. Laclede Gas has its headquarters there. Peabody has its headquarters there. You're telling all these companies, bye-bye.
Right.
You can't do business here.
Yeah. Tony, what are your thoughts?
It causes me great pain whenever I agree with John Deal over anything other than the color of the sky. Sometimes we disagree over that, but he's right. And our colleague Jane Dooler on the board meeting, who isn't here today, as many of our listeners know, is involved in a legal case against this ballot initiative. I wish her well. The irony here is that many of the arguments that the folks who put the initiative on the ballot make against city incentives, I agree with. We agree that the city does a poor job in offering too many corporate TIFs and incentives to companies. For instance, the money for Laclede to move down the street, right, and count their employees as new is a poor investment of city tax dollars. I agree with some of their criticisms over our nation's energy policy and all of that, but trying to pass a ballot initiative in a city with the basic goal of punishing one company, in this case Peabody Coal, and then having all sort of collateral damage is just really bad public policy. And what it does is it completely takes away from the sanity of your other arguments. If you really want to fix some of the problems that you want to fix, then work with the bipartisan group of folks that have been trying to get the legislature to improve our TIF laws so that we don't throw around tax incentives and give them to Walmarts and corporations and just move money around the city for bad development. If you really want to have an effect on energy policy, there's plenty of ways to do that. Putting a ballot initiative on that says to all sorts of companies that have to get their energy from somewhere, you can't spend any money with these companies anymore, is just really bad. And their argument that, it doesn't really do what everybody says it does, just read the language. Ultimately, that's what the courts do. Judges go through a lot of training, but a lot of the most complicated court cases, if you read, ultimate decisions from Supreme Court, come down to the plain language in the law. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to read a CBO report or to look at the ballot language and see what it does. And the ballot language says that the city can't spend $1 million on coal anymore. The city can't spend $1 million on Ameren anymore. The Post-Dispatch, the local law firm, you go stick a solar panel up on your roof and
does this mean you can't print newspapers anymore? Hey.
Yeah, John may be changing his mind. I mean, it's the wrong way to get your message out there, and it creates much more damage than to your own cause, because you take folks like us that might be an ally in many of your arguments, and you make us say we're not touching that thing. It's also just a bad idea.
It's also a bigger issue, and the bigger issue is here's a special interest that is using the system and putting it on the April ballot in which 6 people go and vote, so they skew the results and they skew their point of view. It goes to the bigger point of how many times are you going to force the people to go and vote? Ask me to vote in November, and then there's a special election here, there's a special election there, and, they're gaming the system. And to the person who's busy working and paying their bills and trying to raise their kids, the April election slides by them because they weren't paying attention, and whose fault is that?
And that's I was going to raise the point of because I agree with both Tony and John as to the merits of this, but the initiative process, the initiative petition process, I got to tell you, I'm starting to feel like Robert Hayes in the Airplane movie when he's going through the airport and he's accosted by everybody that wants to, solicit a
stand behind the yellow line.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way I feel when I go to the grocery store, when I go to the coffee shop. I'm accosted by people with petitions that they want me to sign. And while I'm all for, government of the people, by the people, everybody, almost anybody now can do that, get something on the ballot, and now we're out there trying to figure out what in the world are they talking about? Why is this? And there isn't enough money to educate everybody on the pros and cons of some of these initiative petitions that make it onto the ballot.
Right.
I disagree with you a little bit on that. I've got no problem with the ballot process, although I wouldn't have a problem with making it harder. I think the actual number of ballots issues statewide that actually make it to the ballot aren't very big compared to the number that are filed.
April elections.
The number that are filed. But I agree with you entirely, McGraw, as it relates to I'd love to see a wide range of election laws changed in terms of getting rid of the ones that slide by, and folks in both parties and all sorts of special interests use them to their advantage. Whenever you want to try to get something passed and you think that your voters are motivated, that's when you try to schedule it on the ballot.
Right.
I'd love to see us go to mostly entirely November ballot, and then also add the mail-in ballot and make it easier for people to register and all sorts of other things. But I agree that the idea of slipping things through in February and March and April and May are bad ideas.
McGraw, to your point, the way the city charter works too is when someone files an initiative petition, it goes to the Board of Aldermen, and the Board of Aldermen has the opportunity to say, I'm going to pass this piece of legislation that's been proposed, and if they reject it, it then goes on the ballot. So when you have something like this, and the Board of Aldermen in the city of St. Louis is not exactly known to be a bastion of Republican conservatism, and they pass on something like this, it tells you how far out there it is.
So you're saying this is so liberal the Board of Aldermen don't even want it.
They didn't want to touch it.
Now that's liberal.
Yeah.
I don't even think that's even has touched the black hole there.
Yeah. So it's like you look at that, and it's not like you got a bunch of the Missouri. It's not like giving it to the Missouri House and letting us pass on it. It's
that's John Deal, Tony Messer, Jay Kanzler, 9:38. The board meeting in session on KTRS.